Good afternoon. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Larry Clay and I'll be chairing today's session. Panel members today are Dylan Reed, Zahir Bayat, Doug Wilkins, and Nellie Volpeert. Our Deputy Secretary Treasurer is Sabrina Salatino. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or, in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies are permitted to appeal decisions of the committee. Appeal instructions are set out in the bottom of the decision. Today I'll call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may also ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I'll comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and make a presentation to the committee on the application. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we call on speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation, and when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. And this will mark the end of the discussion. The application will be taken into committee for a decision. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, do we have any deferral requests for this afternoon?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I see none.
Okay, thank you. All right, we proceed with item number 19. 500 Atlas Avenue. This is an application to obtain consent to sever an existing residential lot into 2 undersized residential lots. Part 2 and 3 have a lot frontage of 8.69 meters from Winona Drive, a depth of 18.6 meters, and an area of 161.6 meters squared. A new 3-story detached dwelling with a front integral garage, a front covered porch, a rear ground floor deck, and a rear 3rd-story balcony will be constructed on the lot, requiring variances to the zoning bylaw. Part 3 has an area of 4.8 square meters and will be subject to an easement or right-of-way in favor of the adjacent property known municipally as 498 Atlas Avenue for the purpose of pedestrian access. Part 1 has a lot frontage of 8.69 meters from Atlas Avenue, a depth of 18.6 meters, and an area of 161.6 meters squared. A new 3-story detached dwelling with a front integral garage, a front covered porch, a rear ground floor deck, a basement walkout, and a rear 3rd-story balcony will be constructed on the lot, requiring variances to the zoning bylaw. Do we have the agent?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Thank you.
Ida Evangelista, you've been unmuted.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. Ida Evangelista on behalf of the owner of 500 Atlas Avenue.
Thanks, Ida. I think we don't have anyone speaking on this item, but we probably benefit from a quick overview.
Sure. This is very similar to what's transpired the neighboring property at 502 just about a couple of years ago. So 500 Atlas is a through lot. It has frontages on both Atlas and Winona. So the variances, and as you see, I did submit a package just to give you a clear overview of these three blocks. And what we're proposing is extremely characteristic to what already exists. So we are proposing we'll be maintaining the north wall on the existing home facing Atlas, and we will be splitting the lot, the rear portion, so there will be another home that will be facing Winona. So the variances, we've worked quite extensively with all the different departments, and as you see, planning, forestry, transportation, engineering, everyone is in support of the application as you have in front of you, because what we are proposing is exactly what is there. We do have some variances, which is in keeping of what is transpired in the area. And I'll quickly just go over the different variances. So our lot area of 161, but I will note that there are approximately 30 of the 72 lots in the immediate area that have lot areas of less than 200 square meters, and that's just within the immediate vicinity. Our FSI of 1.06 is due to we are adding an additional 36 square meters in the third floor. If we calculate the FSI on floors 1 and 2, we have an FSI of 82%. And as you see from the photos that, and from the rendering on the first page of the plans, you'll see that the house itself presents as a 2-story. And that third story is located within the roof line. So our setback, again, our setback is consistent with the homes on Winona. We want to maintain alignment with Atlas. We want to maintain alignment with the homes on Winona, and that's why we are asking for front yard setbacks. The side yard setbacks, I believe, I respectfully submit that this does allow for spatial separation between the homes. This will give, because the neighboring home at 502, they also have 0.90. So this will allow, this is 1.80 meters between the two homes, which I believe is significant to allow for light, air, maintenance on the sides of the homes. And our rear setback for the platform. So the platform is just basically, it's not a deck. It's just simply a platform to walk out from the kitchen and to access the backyard. So I've outlined all the variances for you on pages 6 and 7, just to have a quick synopsis of what the variances are. I've also outlined in a couple of different matters. On page 9, you'll see an actual area view of the blocks, and on page 8, you'll see an actual view of the lots in the area. I also would like to add that we do have 15 letters of support. The owners have spoken to the neighbors on Atlas, on Winona, on Ava, and the letters do justify that. So in closing, this neighborhood has and is undergoing significant change. The severance and the variances will create no adverse impacts on neighboring properties and maintains physical character which exists in the area and meets the OP and the ZBL. And I'm open to any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Panel, any questions? We have no questions, so let's take this into committee. Seems like a reasonably appropriate use.
Can I add
Ida, did you want to add something else?
just one more thing? I would like to add, we are amenable to all the conditions, but I would like to add forestry is only condition 2 and 3 to part 2.
Okay. All right, we're in committee. Anyone want to start us off on this one?
Perhaps I'll kick-start it, Chair. I do recall, I think it's in the same vicinity of this particular property. Again, this is an unusual setting where you've got a property that has access to 2 different streets from front and back, and this was a separation down the middle and having 2 new structures. It's actually a really great way to address a lot of these sorts of lots. So I think it's a very good proposal. The design of the property as well, I think, is quite acceptable. I don't know if there are any privacy overlook issues because there's a deck at the back. But I think, as Ida was saying, I think it's just a small landing that allows people to access the backyard. So all in all, I think this is a very good proposal.
Would agree. Anyone else? Or Zahir, do you want to do a motion?
Unless anybody else any other
think we're good.
comments? No. So I'd like to, and I suppose we can do all 3 in one go.
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to move a motion to approve this application. The only conditions are that for part 1, which is 19B, part 1 of forestry condition number 3, and part 2 has forestry conditions number 2 and 3. I don't think that
Engineering?
There's engineering conditions.
and oh yes, and the standard engineering condition as well.
Okay. All right. Motion by Mr. Byatt to approve this application, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, Dylan. Item number 20, 661 Willard Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear cantilevered 2nd-story addition above the 1st floor. Committee has before a copy of plan survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 2 photographs of the subject property, covering letter from the agent, email correspondence to the neighbors from the agent, 13 signature petition and support from owners and occupants of Priscilla, St. John's Road, Willard, Windermere, Willard, St. John's, and Rexford. Correspondence and concern from Mr. Fennick, no address provided.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item. At this time, we'll unmute the agent.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. This is Bamdad Ben Baghdadi from BBA Design Studio, Inc., residing at 13 Hollyberry Trail in Toronto. I'm the applicant and the architect for this application before you today.
Great, thanks very much. Panel, do you need a presentation on this one? I think, sir, we're okay. We don't need a presentation. Panel members have read your application and are familiar with the material. Is there anything you'd like to share with the panel before we take it into committee?
No, Mr. Chair. I think this is a very straightforward application with 2 minor variances, one being GFA, which is only 2% over, and the other one is the existing roof overhang that we're maintaining to have a consistent north side roof overhang facing St. John's Road.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone have any questions? No, okay, let's go into committee. Dylan?
I think it's very straightforward. The variance is extremely minor. The eaves one actually faces the street, so it doesn't really impact anyone. and it's desirable in terms of providing more space for a family to live in a good area. So I move that we approve these variances without any conditions.
Okay, motion by Mr. Reed to approve, seconded by Mr. Wilkins. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you. We move on to item number 21, 225 Jarvis Street. This is an application to permit access to the loading area of a 49-story mixed-use building as approved under site-specific zoning bylaws 764-2020 OMB and 765-2020 OMB from the abutting street on the east side of the building. This mixed-use building will contain 215 hotel suites, 1 ground floor restaurant use, and 580 residential dwelling units. Committee has before it copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from the agent, tree inventory imagery, the 2 site-specific bylaws previously noted. We have correspondence from community planning and transportation, and correspondence and concern from Ms. Kazikla, no address provided. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Richard Domes from Gagnon Walker Domes Ltd. We are the planning consultant and agent for Amexon Development Corporation, who owns the site at 225 Jarvis.
This seems like mostly a pretty technical variance. Just give us the headline on it, maybe?
Certainly. So in 2020, the former Grand Hotel was demolished in order to implement a decision by the OMB in 2016 for rezoning to the former Toronto bylaw and the new comprehensive bylaw 569/2013 for a 49-story mixed-use development. It features 215 hotel suites and 580 residential condominiums. The nature of the minor variance application is to permit the loading access from George Street rather than Walnut Hall Place laneway, which terminates along the subject site's southern boundary. At no point in the subject site's history has Walnut Hall Place Lane been utilized by the subject site for other normal vehicles or loading. Historically, vehicles have used both Jarvis Street and George Street, and loading has been from George Street exclusively. About 50% of the George Street frontage has been used in the past for curb cuts to facilitate access. The proposal before you is to facilitate the new mixed-use development with a 6-meter driveway access to an internalized loading area within the base building podium, which is intervening with new street-related residential units to the north and the south of the George Street frontage.
Okay, great, thank you. We did notice in the description that you have the the owner, excuse me, the owner is listed as the RCMP. Are they still the owner?
They are the former owner. They have not been the owners for quite some time. And Development Corporation is the owner of the site.
Okay, so we can amend the application to reflect that?
Absolutely. And our application form correctly notes the owner as registered on title.
Okay. Excuse me. Any questions, panel?
No.
All right. We'll take this into committee. Someone else talk for a moment? Who wants to do this one? Nellie?
Sure.
Oh, sorry, Doug.
I'll go ahead. I agree with the suggestion earlier that this is a technical variance. The only pause that I had when I was thinking about it initially was it's obvious the bylaw as enacted was trying to channel the traffic off of the larger street into something that was more, I guess, out of the way, that wouldn't impede traffic so much. But even that plan seems misconceived given the size of what the bylaw currently requires, and I think that this will achieve the same purpose as what was intended, and there won't be any significant adverse effects. So my motion is to approve with, I don't believe there are any conditions. So.
Okay, motion by Mr. Wilkin to approve, seconded by,
Should it be an amended one? With the-
oh, amended, yeah,
Oh, as
amended because of the
amended.
ownership change, yeah.
Mhm.
Seconded by
I'll
Mr.
second
Bryant.
that, Chair.
All in favor? Thank you, Councilor, you have your approval.
Thank you.
No, I'm fine, I'm just, I don't know what the heck is wrong. All right. 82 Montrose, number 22, 82 Montrose Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing two-story semi-detached townhouse dwelling by constructing a complete third-story addition with a rear balcony, a new rear second-story addition cantilevered over the first story, and front balconies on the second and third floors, and also to reconstruct the one-story detached garage in the rear yard abutting the laneway. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 5 photographs of trees on the subject property, a red line zoning notice received August the 30th, revised plans received August the 30th, staff report from from Transportation Services, and 4 form letters in support from 63, 78, 80, and 84 Montrose.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online. No registered speakers for this item. At this time, we'll unmute the agent.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jason Kiefer. I'm the agent located at 496 St. James Street, London.
Okay, I think you've made some changes. You've got a red line. Did you have a red line notice? Yes, you did. Can you?
That's correct.
Can you just take us through the public notice and flag the changes you're making?
Sure. So the intent of this application is to renovate the existing dwelling to create a space suitable for multi-generational living, adding residential space to the neighborhood. The variants requested are mostly a result of the proposed construction being within the existing footprint of the building. We're planning to properly enclose the front porch at the ground floor, adding a balcony above with second floor access. The second floor itself will be extended to the rear and cantilever over the existing ground floor main wall in order to maintain rear yard area. The proposed third floor will be set back substantially from the front lot line in order to reduce the building's overall visual impact at street level. And so regarding the variances relating to the garage, we've worked with community planning and transportation services regarding their requests about the location, proposed location of the garage. It will now, and we've made those changes for them. They'll now be, the garage will now be, meet the 2.5 meter setback from the center line of the lane, which will negate variance 3. And variance 4 will be altered so that we're now 0.67 meters from the rear lot line rather than effectively 0 meters. So that's pretty much everything there regarding the red line. And yeah, the variances listed are below averages previously approved by committee within the vicinity of the property. Our application is in line with developments that are occurring on Montrose itself and within the neighborhood. And as you mentioned, we have those letters of support from the adjacent neighbors and others on Montrose. So we believe this application meets the 4 tests. Thank you.
Okay, panel, any questions?
Through you, Mr. Chair, sorry, can the applicant go through which variances are being
Eliminated
amended?
number 3.
No, I-
Correct.
It doesn't reflect what we have as the public hearing notice, so we have to follow those
Ah.
same, yeah.
Thank you.
That's number 8.
Okay, so have you got the public notice in front of you?
I do.
Okay, can you walk us through the public notice to make sure the panel is aware of exactly what you're changing?
So that would be on the public notice, variance 8 is going to change from 1.84 meters to 2.51 meters. And variance 9 is revised from 0.26 meters to a setback of 0.69 meters.
So we're eliminating variance 8?
Correct.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, 0.69 meters or 0.67 meters? Because I see on the red-lined notice, it says 0.67 meters, so I just want to make sure we get that correct.
That's my mistake, 0.67.
Okay. All right, and those are all the changes you're making?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Panel, questions? I have a question about the ancillary structure.
Sure.
You're seeking a height variance. It's a one-story structure?
That's right.
Is there no way you can satisfy the requirements of the bylaw and stay at 4 or under?
We could. The intent was that we would have some additional storage above in the garage for the unit. But if the committee feels strongly about that variance, we're flexible.
Yeah, I don't know what my panel members feel like. I tend to be a bit of a stickler on height of ancillary buildings, just because 4 meters, 12 feet plus seems quite sufficient to put a vehicle in and get some storage. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, let's go into committee. I don't know what you guys think, but I think 4 meters is enough.
For me, it's a peaked roof, so I don't mind the extra height myself.
I thought it was a flat roof.
No, it's peaked. Isn't it? Or is that the existing? Oh, it's
I thought it was
existing.
a flat.
Give me a sec. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're right, it is flat.
It's flat.
Yeah, yeah. And there's yeah, and there's like windows up above. You're right, sorry. I was looking at the existing.
Anyone else?
Just a couple.
So here?
Just an observation. I think your point about the garage is well taken. I think it presents a massing that isn't necessary. The other concern I had is I think it's at the rear third floor level, this balcony. Now I do see on south elevation drawing, I suppose it's south and north, that there seems to be what looks like a glass panel on the side. But I just wondering if it would have overlook and whether in fact that might be raised to about 1.5 meters.
This is a pretty tight urban fabric down there, so I would think there would be overlook.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if that so that would be one, I think, concern I would have about privacy. Outside of that, I think the application is a reasonably good one.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, anyone want to take a crack at a motion?
Sure, I'll give it a shot. So I think the application is a reasonably well thought through piece. I think given the concern about the height of the ancillary building, I think that's one variance that I'd like to refuse. And the other condition would be that the third floor rear balcony or deck be provided with privacy screening of opaque panels on the sides, on the south and north sides. This is also an amended application. There's a transportation condition as well. I think that's about all of the pieces for this one.
Yes, that's it. Sabrina, you had all the changes, right?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I do. So is the motion that you're refusing one of the variances?
Variance number 10,
And that's for the height?
that's for the ancillary building height.
Okay, motion by Mr. Byett to approve this application with the exception of variance number, amended application with the exception of variance number 10, which will be refused with transportation conditions and a condition for privacy screening on the third floor balcony on the north and south sides.
I'm happy to second that. I'm wondering, do you think it should be tied to the site plan, given that there's been this adjustment of the ancillary building? That was what Transportation Services asked that the plans be revised to show the movement of the ancillary building, and I wonder if it makes sense to tie it to that.
We can tie it to the site plan if you feel more comfortable with that.
That sounds good.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So motion to that effect by Mr. Byett. I think, did you second it, Doug? Seconded by Mr. Wilkins. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Okay. Item number 23. 603 and 1/2 Parliament Street. This is an application to legalize and maintain the existing three-story non-residential building, which was converted from a residential building without an authorized building permit. The existing non-residential use, which is now a law office, will be maintained. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, cover letter from the agent, 3 photographs of trees on the subject property, and a tree inventory. In order to comply for this subject property, presentation materials from the agent, email correspondence from Transportation Services, correspondence and support from the Cabbagetown BIA, 601 and 576 Parliament Street, and Elora and Michael Dials, no address provided, and correspondence in opposition from 304 Wellesley Street East.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online. We do have the owner at 304 Wellesley Street East registered to speak. We've been making some attempts to contact them. We haven't been successful. We will try one more time, but we can hear from Franco Romano.
Okay, Mr. Romano.
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Franco Romano, Action Planning, 321 Lakeshore.
Great, sir. We do have someone who's shared some concerns, so maybe just a very quick overview of this application, please.
Certainly, and thanks staff for bringing up my slides. So slide 1 shows the existing property. It's on the east side of Parliament Street, just south of Wellesley. It's an existing building. It's a Victorian building in Cabbagetown. It has traditionally been used and always been used for non-residential. So there is no proposed conversion here. It's a matter of the owner having to be tasked with obtaining variances to rectify what has been a long-standing situation. So the proposal is to permit the entire building to be used for office or non-residential purposes. There are several examples of nearby completely non-residential buildings as shown in slide 1, and those are in the blue boxes. There's a restaurant, there's ground floor retail commercial, second floor personal service shop, also mixed offices and businesses. The proposal fits into that fabric, but in a residential building form. It's the north half of a semi-detached building. The core owner, because they basically changed the basement from a common workspace to partitioned or offices, got the order to comply, and the order to comply was a building code related item, not a zoning item, but the zoning came up through the building permit process because apparently the zoning requires part of the building to be used for residential. There's no new building, no new being proposed, no new floor area, no new construction. If we could just stay with, thanks. Stay on slide number 2, that would be good, thanks. The 2 variances dealing with floor space index reflect the existing condition, and that's comparable to other single and mixed-use buildings on the street and in the area. And the 3rd variance deals with the existing attached parking spaces. It's a bit of an unusual one. The space is attached at the back, It's undersized. It's not going to be used for residential purposes, so that's why it's a variance to remove that residential parking space, even though it's still staying there and it's going to be used as a dual parking and storage area. The current owners purchased a property from the previous owners who used the entire premises for offices from 2011 to 2022, and that's the brochure, the 8-page brochure that starts on slide number 3. And those owners purchased it from a previous non-residential user of the building as well. So the property is being used for non-residential for many, many decades with no concerns. So the 3 variances are, in my opinion, minor in nature. There's no staff objection. Transportation have no concerns. Planning, no concerns. There's also no conditions. There's several letters of support, including from the abutting property owner at 603 and other property owners and business operators that have known this property and seen this property for many, many years and have attested in their correspondence that the property is well maintained and has been used for non-residential for many years. The one resident letter of concern or objection relates to the loss of rental accommodation, and there is no loss of rental accommodation in this instance. It's not a conversion. And in terms of parking, on-street parking is permitted, and the one individual in the building that had parked on the street on occasion has obtained off-street parking, so she's no longer using the street for parking purposes. Subject to any questions, Mr. Chairman, I submit that the variance application is minor in nature and satisfies all 4 tests. Thank you.
Thank you. Any luck? Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, I will try. We're not sure if it's his voicemail, but we'll unmute and, hello, Harry? We'll try one more time. Hello, Harry, can you hear us? Okay, we're going to try calling you one more time.
Or 8815.
At the
Okay,
tone,
through you,
please
Mr. Chair, we've made multiple attempts, haven't been successful on reaching.
Harry did contribute some correspondence in opposition, so we've read that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any further questions for Mr. Romano? Okay, let's take this into committee. I think it's pretty straightforward.
I want to just move a motion to approve. It's an existing condition. I think it's actually a very good condition. It's a main street. It's easily transit accessible. It makes sense to have employment uses at this location. Clearly, it's been used that way for a long time. So I think it's desirable and minor, and I move that we approve the variances.
Motion to approve by Mr. Reed. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Wilkins, all in favor? That's approved. Thank you. All right, we move on to item number 24, 232 High Park Ave. This is an application to construct an in-ground swimming pool in the rear yard of the property. Committee has before it copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 13 photographs of trees on the subject property. decision number A0876/16 Etobicoke, and Ontario Municipal Board PL 170466 affecting the subject property. We have 18 letters, form letters in support from residents on High Park Avenue, Quebec Avenue. We have correspondence and concern from, looks like Apartment 2, 240 High Park Avenue.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have a report from Urban Forestry recommending condition number 2 if the committee is to approve the application. We do have the agent here in person. The owner of Unit 2, 240 High Park Avenue has registered to speak, however, they're not online.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee. My name's Lucas Marty. I'm the owner of 232 High Park.
Okay. We do have someone potentially registered to speak on this, so we'll need a short presentation of what your application is.
Okay, I'd just like to build a swimming pool at the back of my property. It has a minor variance because we're gonna go 7% over the soft surface area. And that's about it.
Okay. Panel, any questions? Yes, Zahir.
Yeah, I mean, you've only got one variance. It's not a big ask. However, the variance is 7% less in terms of soft landscaping, as you pointed out. But I also noticed that on the site plan, there's a pretty extensive driveway area. So to mitigate the 4%, the 7% that you're asking for, which in fact could be eliminated, if part of the driveway could be turned into soft landscaping, is that something you've considered?
Well, it's a heated driveway that we use for snow melt. We have 4 cars right now, so we need a large driveway. And for me to cut the driveway, it would sever PEX tubing that has glycol in it, and it would be very costly to do so.
So the entire driveway is heated?
Heated, yes.
Okay. Is
Nelly? Sorry, Zahir, were you done?
No, I was just going to ask if there's any other area where you could mitigate at all outside of the heated.
I've racked my brain over it. I couldn't come up with anything. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Nelly?
Yeah, actually, I was concerned about that too, and, you mentioned it's heated driveway, but at the back as well?
Yes.
This whole area is heated?
Yes.
Because you have, as Mr. Bayat mentioned, quite an extensive driveway paving, and it seems like you might be able to find a solution to, to bring it back to the, to the zoning bylaw requirements?
There's nowhere that I could cut that wouldn't affect the heated driveway.
What's underneath it? So you've got stairs at the side of the garage?
Yes.
They're going up or down?
They're going down.
They're going down. I was thinking, man, if they're going up, then if they're wood, then the water would go through, right? So
Yeah.
that would be helpful. All right. So you've racked your brain, and there's no additional opportunities to add in more soft landscaping. That's one big driveway. Okay, any further questions? I mean, it's an existing condition, so I guess that, challenge, and it is wired, right? So I understand the challenge. All right, let's take it into committee. Nellie?
Oh, I'm still, I'm still on. And just, looking at the, the driveway and looking at the plans, I think there should be like, if, the owner can, take a closer look at the drawings and maybe we can come up with some ideas, because I don't see the reason, with such an extensive pavement not to comply with, with the zoning bylaw requirements. So if we're taking from the, back for the purpose of, installing a pool, I'm pretty sure we can, think of something and maybe, for, maybe this application could be deferred until the owner can come up with ideas.
Okay, anyone else?
We do have that one registered speaker. We see that she's joined online. Again, we're not sure if it's
Okay.
just the voice message, so we
Sure.
might want to just try.
Yep.
And she left? Okay, so then we'll just,
The record will show we tried
Yes.
several times to reach this person. Yeah, I don't know. Even the walkway to the stairs, even if it pulled the walkway that goes down to the stairs and replaced it with grass, can I go to committee? Could you do that? Like, again, I think the panel wants to support your application, but I think we're struggling with, soft landscaping's a big deal these days. So even though it's not a lot, but if there's a way, like, can you put up the site plan? Yeah, so I'm gonna do what Sabrina tells me never to do, but I'm gonna do this anyway. This area right here, that's not for parking. Could you cut that off, pull it, put grass or something down there?
That's the man door into the garage and the top of the landing of the stairs.
We're trying to help you, man.
Yeah. I guess it might be possible to jackhammer that up. I'm not sure what's underneath it, but
If I may,
Yes.
but that particular portion is not currently heated.
oh, it's heated.
It's heated as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes. All the walkways in the front, down the side, it's all heated.
On the, if you look at the garage sorry, if I can just get back to the site plan. There's a portion at the bottom of the image where you see existing garage. So the bottom right corner, it says existing pad. Is that also heated?
That's where the manifold is for all the tubes that connect to the driveway. So there's probably about 100 tubes that go in there.
Oh my God.
But it's a large property, right? I mean, I'm just looking at the front facade. So you've got a large front yard, big city boulevards, all grassed.
Yes.
You've got a fair amount of grass in the backyard. The pool constitutes soft landscaping under the rules, so you're allowed. So, maybe panel, you maybe consider that on the entire property, there's a significant amount of soft landscaping that might compensate for the shortfall. Anyways, any more questions for the panel, for the applicant? Okay, let's go back into committee. So I would just stand by my point is that it's a very large property, which seems to have quite a bit of open area. And notwithstanding the shortfall, I think on the entire lot size, it's pretty well green and grass. And it is existing conditions, and I think, the applicants indicated that, it's all wired underneath, which is pretty incredible. Anyways, what do you guys think?
Well, I mean, it seems what's happened going back to the previous decision was originally there was a desire for a garage for 4 cars. That was refused, so then a good chunk of this was being paved over just to 50%, so without need of a variance to store the cars. But then, now we're adding a pool. But I do tend to agree that there is a very large amount of soft landscaping on the site. So I think that there's a bit of wiggle room. That's what I'm thinking.
Anyone else?
Yep.
Okay.
Hi.
Sorry, Doug, did you want to say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I always have trouble picturing square meters, but, so it's about this proposal calls for 3,132 square feet of green space, which is pretty significant. So it's, I tend to, I guess, align more carefully with what you were saying, Larry.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of green space here.
All right, can someone try a motion?
Sure.
Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, my motion is to approve with forestry condition 2. I think even compared to other variances that we've heard today, this is, I think, a 7% reduction in the soft landscaping can be characterized as minor. I believe there's a lot of green space to soak up the rainwater and ensure that drainage is proper. I do recognize that this comes on the heel of other variances that have been granted in the past, but overall, I do believe this is minor.
Okay, motion to, there's no conditions, right?
Forestry 2.
Forestry 2. Motion to approve by Mr. Wilkins. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Reed, all in favor? Opposed? Ms. Volpert is opposed. Motion is carried. You have your approval. All right, we move to item number 25. 21 Scarth Road. This is an application to alter the existing 2.5-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear 2-story addition with a ground floor deck and a side basement walkout. There will be a total of 2 residential units on this lot. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 13 photographs of trees on the subject property, a cover letter from the agent, decision number A0029/24TUI affecting the subject property, email correspondence from Heritage Planning, shadow study, presentation materials from the agent. We have correspondence in concern from 25 Scarth Road. We have correspondence in opposition from 25 Scarth Road, 27 Scarth Road, 106 South Drive, and looks like apartment 2, number 15 Scarth Road.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent here in person, no registered speakers for this item. Urban Forestry also submitted a report recommending condition number 2 if the committee is to approve it.
Thank you. All right, sirs. Can I have your name and address, please?
Richard De Oliveira, 911 Davenport Road.
And your colleague?
My name is Amar Varma, 21 Scarth Road.
Okay. Oh, so you're the owner? All right. All right, so I think this one's been through some process. Maybe, I think we'd benefit from a presentation.
Certainly. Good afternoon, committee. Today we are seeking approval for 2 variances related to the length and depth. For a 1-story partial rear extension, this addition is designed to create a larger dining room to better serve the needs of our clients' large family and their gatherings. It also includes adjustments to the basement unit to allow to accommodate a 1-bedroom suite. In February, we presented a request for a larger rear addition with 4 variances, unfortunately which was denied. Following this decision, we paused the project and worked closely with our clients, taking into account feedback from both the committee and the community. In response, we've made significant adjustments, and after careful consideration and compromise, we obtained a building permit for internal work and restructuring, along with a revised as-of-right addition. The proposal before you today seeks approval for 2 variances related to length and depth. And if you can go to page 2 for me on the, here, so the first variance is for building length. We are seeking an approval for 24.71 meters where 19 meters is permitted. We have researched and identified precedents supporting this request, which are outlined in the presentation. Larger, longer additions have been approved on similarly sized lots within the same block, and we believe our lot supports this request. Also, the item 2 is the building depth. We're requesting an approval for 22.59 meters, where 19 meters is permitted. This request is detailed on page 3 of our presentation with supporting precedents. The curvature of the property and the natural flow of the rearmost locations of neighboring properties influenced this request. and we feel that our lot also can accommodate this variance. On page 6 of our presentation, we've provided clarification of our request, highlighted in yellow, along with a comparison showing the shadowing and overall impact on the proposed property. I'd also like to acknowledge that ongoing work is taking place on the property, including underpinning, interior alterations, and additions. All work on site has been thoroughly vetted through proper channels with issued building permits, inspections, and site reviews conducted throughout by city officials and by law enforcement. Given the scope of the large work of the project, work has been ongoing since the winter of 2023. Additionally, the site remained dormant for several months while we navigated the permitting process and revised the proposal, reflecting our commitment to addressing the committee's concerns. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to any questions. And my client would also like to say a few words.
Dear members of the committee, I'm here today to respectfully request the committee to approve the proposed variance at 21 Scarth Road. With 4 young children, we chose this neighborhood to raise our family of 6 with the hope of being part of a supportive, welcoming community. Unfortunately, the tone and content of the objection and the immediate opposition we received both during the first Committee of Adjustments and the second Committee of Adjustments has made us feel blindsided, unwelcome, and has been deeply disheartening. When purchasing a property built in the 1890s, one can reasonably assume there's an intent to renovate and enhance the home to suit a modern family's needs. Our initial proposal was never intended to disturb the heritage building we fell in love with and the harmonious look and feel of our new community. That said, following the initial rejection of the Committee of Adjustments in February of this year, we carefully considered feedback provided by the committee and our peer neighbors and revised our plans with renewed thoughtfulness. As a family with 4 young children and 2 sets of elderly parents, we have significant space requirements. While we feel incredibly fortunate to reside in a community as prestigious as Rosedale, our new home, in its current state does not meet and its adequate needs for our family, necessitating this expansion. And while we believe open communication with neighbors is important, respect for each other's legal and moral rights should also be at the heart of the neighborhood relations. Our renewed proposed extension is fully compliant with zoning bylaws. This addition affects our desire to create a suitable living environment for our family, not to exploit any loopholes as has been suggested. In fact, it is for us as a family and us alone to decide what we should do for living arrangements and is not up for a community debate. The newly voiced objections we have received and the accusations that we're manipulating and regulations to expand our property have repeatedly and unjustly accused us of deceit, manipulation, and lack of transparency. These statements are not only false but defamatory. We've complied with all legal requirements and bylaws. Our actions have always been within the legal framework, and we have not misled any parties involved in this process. The city has issued all the permits required for the work and has continually expected the work. So the characterization of our intention as deceitful is both harmful and unfounded. We've always been open to dialogue and sought to engage respectfully with those affected. We believe in respectful two-way communication, and we welcome feedback. That being said, the first communication we received from our neighbor at 25 Scarth was through their lawyer, not directly to us. This is hardly a welcoming and transparent attempt to mitigate any concerns one might have in a friendly manner.
Sir, I don't mean to interrupt you, but your time is you've gone past your time, so if you could just wrap up for us, please.
I need 30 more seconds.
Okay.
I just think it's important to hear my perspective of this. Between the prior committee today, there's not an opportunity for us to have a formal, rational conversation with any of the neighbors regarding planning. But we've done our best to mitigate these impacts, working closely to minimize the inconvenience to neighbors. Given time, and we plan on being there a very long time, we invite the entire street and neighborhood to meet and discover us for the kind and well-hearted family that we are. I certainly hope that our children will feel safe and connected enough to live on this street like we did as children, knocking on doors for Halloween, exchanging cookies during the holiday season, and to play with other children on the street. So we respectfully request the committee consider our position and recognize our right to improve our home within the bounds of the law. We're committed to being responsible and considerate neighbors and hope to foster a positive relationship with the community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. All right. There's no speakers, Sabrina? All right. Questions, panel. Dylan?
Yeah, would you be okay, given that the depth extension is just for one story, would you be okay if we tied the approval to the site plan and elevations?
Certainly. Yep.
Thanks. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is he here?
Yeah, I'd just like to make some comments. I was just going to say to the agent, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm looking particularly at the site plan comparisons that you put forward. I think that brings home the fact that the ask is actually not that great. And it also, I think, the ask in the context of the shape of the lot, because there's a tremendous depth at that particular point. So the actual, the piece of development that you're requesting beyond 19 meters isn't great. So I do not believe that this is an what's the word? It's not an ask that is excessive. I think it's quite an acceptable ask.
Anyone else? Yes, Nellie?
Just to understand, the distance, right, the 22, I think 24, it's because of the first floor dining room extension,
Correct.
right? That's the only.
That's the extension.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is you've done a good job in the presentation of showing what's as of right versus what is the incremental ask, right? And you know, compared it to the application you had before, which seemed to get a lot of blowback from the neighbors. I just noticed in the project description, it's 2 dwelling units, so you've got an apartment as well in there, so there'll be.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. We'll take this into committee. Dylan?
Yeah, so I was on the panel that refused it previously. And the specific, our specific concern was that it didn't really, the previous plan didn't really address the unusual context where the street's actually curved. And I have to say, I feel like this plan has specifically well addressed the issues that we had at the time. Basically, it now on the one side matches the building to the south, I guess, and then it pulls in so that it matches the building to the north as well. So I feel like, and also reducing it to 1 story, the extension to 1 story, also makes a considerable difference in terms of the impact on the 25 SCARTH. So I feel like the architect and the owners have, in fact, specifically addressed the concerns the committee had. I suggest that we tie it to site plan and elevation just to make sure that the building length is specific to that extension that's planned. But otherwise, I appreciate the fact that the owner and designers have specifically addressed the issues that were brought up at the last time and have worked within those.
Okay, anyone else?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Just reading through the purpose of application, and we might have to come out of committee and ask the agent if this is okay, but where it states there will be a total of 2 residential dwelling units on this lot.
Looks like there's a bachelor apartment in
It
the
is,
floor plans,
yeah.
right?
So could we be a bit more specific and maybe put in brackets 1 bachelor unit within
Okay.
the basement?
Let's go out
And
of committee.
That would be the amendment
Yeah.
to the purpose of application?
Can we go to committee? Is that fine with you guys?
Yep, that's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it just reflects your floor plans and your design, right?
Yep.
So it's just being specific to that?
Yep, not a problem.
Okay. Thank you, Sabrina. All right, back in committee. I would also note a couple things. I mean, you know, this is a very deep lot.
Yes,
and,
I meant to
in a
mention
neighborhood characterized by deep lots,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think
There's a lot of room for
there's a lot of
expansion.
room for
Yeah, yeah,
an
absolutely.
extension, I think, and as you point out, Dylan, the fact that it's now a 1-story addition really mitigates any kind of
Absolutely.
impact on the neighbors. So I do note that, you know, there was still a lot of opposition that was written in, it didn't seem like it was a whole lot different from the opposition that was reflected initially. So I frankly don't know if you're ever going to make those folks happy, frankly. But I would agree with you that it is a supportable application now. So look for a motion. Dylan, do you want to do this one?
Yeah, sure. I move that we approve these variances with forestry condition number 2.
It's an amended application.
It's amended application. We approve this amended application with forestry condition number 2 and with a condition that it be tied to the site plan and elevations.
Okay, motion by Mr. Reed with those conditions for the amended application, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you for coming down. Item number 26, 95 Ellsworth Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a partial rear one-story addition with a ground floor deck. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of the subject property, cover letter from the agent, and 5 form letters in support from 93, 97, 99, 130 Ellsworth Avenue, and 133 Witchwood.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Jonathan Hatch, 6 Bishop Street, Toronto, Ontario, M5R1 and 2.
Mr. Hatch, hang on a second. I don't know if we have a need for a presentation, but I think we probably have questions around your variance number 2, the soft landscaping, so maybe we could talk about that just for a moment.
Of course. So we're requesting it. However, if you look very closely and you compare the proposed addition to the existing basement and walkout plans, is that the addition is actually completely over top of what was already hard landscaping, the walkout and the basement space. And so what we are proposing is a deck, which is going to be a wood deck, which is permeable. There's going to be nothing underneath. It's not a concrete deck, it's a wood deck. And then a very modest just pathway just to get to the garage. And so this is just barely enough to get a table on top of this to allow for the family to have dinner. So we felt it was very reasonable. So we haven't really changed the general landscaping conditions that are already present there in terms of permeability. And we feel like it's a reasonable request and change to the plan to allow for it.
Okay, Zahir?
Just a quick question. Just looking at the site plan, I take it that, do I assume correctly that the garage is accessed from, is it Hawken Avenue?
That's correct. It's a through street, so that's Hawken Avenue.
And so what's shown on, you've got soft landscaping, proposed soft landscaping on a fairly large piece of the area between the house and the garage.
Yeah, you can see the family mainly drives on Hawken, parks, and then walks into the home, which is why the mud berm is proposed at the rear and then just a walkway so that they can clear the snow and walk comfortably back into the home. And that's why we've left the rest of the landscaping, soft landscaping, as much as possible.
Good. Thank you very much.
Sabrina, do we have Nakashima?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe they are associated with Hatch Design.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's one of the other partners in the firm.
Oh, okay. Great, thank you. And he doesn't need to speak then. Any further questions? Okay, let's take this into committee.
I'll kick this one off, thank you. I think this is a very reasonable request, and I know variance number 2 is very glaring at 31%, but I think the explanation that was offered that the area under the deck is permeable and will presumably remain so. I then find that the 31% is more acceptable. It's not concrete patio, hard surface. So I think that's something that I can support.
Okay, is that a motion?
Certainly we can turn it into a motion. I don't believe there aren't any other conditions, actually.
No, there's no conditions.
No conditions.
Okay, motion by Mr. Byatt to approve. Do I have a seconder? Ms. Volpert, all in favor? You have your approval, thank you. Item number 27, 59 Orley Ave. This is an application to construct a one-story shed in the rear yard. Committee has before it copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, one photograph of trees on the subject property, and correspondence and support from 60 Orley.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online, no registered speakers.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Alan Diaz, Mark Design Concepts, 2326 Burrock Avenue, Markham, Ontario.
Great, thank you, sir. Hang on a second. Panel, do we need a presentation, or would you just like to go to questions?
Questions, I think.
Sir, we don't need a presentation today. We're familiar with your application. We've read all the material, but we do have a question.
I suppose it's one that we thought about earlier, is that drawing number A2.2 identifies the space as garage floor plan, and it's not a garage, so I'm not sure if this was supposed to be something that we considered to be amended.
Why don't we just clarify, sir, is it a garage or a shed?
It's a storage garage, but it's technically a shed, right, for storage. It's an ancillary structure.
So you're not.
So as far as the garage, you can't even park a car there because you can't get in between the two dwellings, number 59 or 61, since there is a fence there. So you can't really park a car in the back. So there's probably a typo, call it a typo.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal. I think we were just a little bit confused by the term that you use. So it's basically a storage shed in our vernacular.
Right. We can revise that, into a shed, or we'll just call it an ancillary space.
Well, that's what the project description is. I think we were just confused
That's
by
correct.
what it was labeled on the drawings.
Right.
Okay.
So we can correct that.
All right. Anything else? All right, let's take this into committee. Can I get a motion on this one?
I'll move, Chair. This is a really wonderfully simple application, so I'd like to move approval. I don't believe there are any there's a Forest Road 2 condition attached. And I wonder if this should be an amended one, if we're making corrections to.
I don't think we're
the wording, or just leave
correcting,
it as
it's
is?
just, no, he might change the terminology in the drawings.
In the
not-
drawing.
Not in
Oh.
the actual purpose, so I think we're fine.
Then we're good. Thank you.
All right, motion to approve by Mr. Byatt, seconded by Mr. Wilkins, all in favor. You have your approval, sir. And we come to the last item on.
Second last.
Thank you. Thank you. Keep on flipping. I'm sorry. Thank you, Sabrina. Second last item on today's agenda. This is 14 Elgin Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing 2.5-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear 3-story addition, a side 2-story addition with an integral garage, a front porch to replace the existing front porch, a rear 3rd-floor balcony, covered rear ground floor terrace, a rear yard patio with an in-ground swimming pool, and a 1-story ancillary building, which is a pool cabana with a washroom and some storage. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received August 26th. Email correspondence from the agent, arborist report, heritage impact assessment, and presentation materials from the agent. We have staff reports from Heritage Services and Community Planning. We have correspondence in support from 16 Elgin and 17 Boswell.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we also have Urban Forestry report recommending condition number 2. If the committee is to approve this application, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers at this time. So we will unmute David Bronskill.
Mr. Bronskill, welcome back. Not there?
He's unmuted.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Bronskill?
David, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is that
Mr.
you?
Chair? Yes.
Oh, there
Sorry,
you are.
I had a volume issue. Apologies.
No worries. We're going to take you through a tutorial on WebEx.
I need one.
All right. For the record, your name and address, please, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Last name is Bronskill, Bronskill, first initial D for David. You're acting as agent on behalf of the applicant.
All right, sir. We don't have anyone registered to speak today, but I think we'd benefit from an overview.
Thanks, sir. I can do that. You should also have the letters of support in front of you. And I'm going to touch quickly on the condition from city planning. The condition that's on the screen from Heritage staff is completely acceptable to our client. There's also a condition from city planning staff as part of their positive staff report that we would accept with just one modification that I will explain. And this has to do with a consultation that has worked in this instance with a neighbor at 16 Elgin. There's a minor change to the site plan that occurred subsequent to that planning staff report. It's in the materials that are before you, received August 26th. It's on a site plan that is dated September 4th, 2024. And what the neighbor at 16 Elgin, who had gone through the Committee of Adjustment themselves to get, frankly, very similar variances, had reasonably asked for was just a small reduction to the two-story addition. And you can see it there hatched in red at the rear of the house. So the cutout lines up with the rear of 16 Elgin. There's then a bit of a notch in, so it does extend slightly longer, but not quite as far as his canopy. And so this would be the site plan to which construction should proceed substantially in accordance, should the committee see fit to grant the variances. The site is on Elgin. It's a lovely street extending west from Avenue Road. The neighbor that it's immediately to the east that you see there, it's sort of a, it's shown on the survey as a 1.5-story brick dwelling, but it's actually an accessory dwelling to the house that fronts on Avenue Road. So this is the first house in on Elgin. Those are all rears of the commercial properties that exist on Avenue Road. That neighbor has no concern. That's a brick dwelling associated with the commercial use in a lovely heritage building that fronts on the northwest corner of Avenue Road and Elgin. There are four variances before you. One deals with the replacement porch at the front. It encroaches 0.06 meters into the front yard setback. We need that variance because you can encroach into the front yard setback. You just have to meet the side yard setback to have an encroachment. So it's 6 centimeters into the setback, and it's because it's located 0.37 meters from the side lot line, but it's essentially replacing the existing porch. The dwelling there, you'll see depth of 26.43 essentially lines up with the neighbor to the west. FSI is 0.02 over the permitted floor space index by roughly 9 square meters. And then there's a side yard setback variance, which is the last of the 4 variances, which actually reflects the existing dwelling that's on the property. And we've actually notched the house as it goes to the rear as part of the additions. So that side yard setback isn't for the entirety of the dwelling. Given that the variances are tied to the site plan and some specific aspects of the site plan, including the reduction to accommodate the neighbor, some of the stepping so that the side yard setback doesn't go for all of the property line, the planning staff condition is reasonable. I would just ask it that it be tied to the plan received by the committee on August 26th, and that is dated there at the bottom at September 4th. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Dylan?
I'm just looking at the planning staff report. So the depth, it says it's limited to the underground level, but not the above grade level. Can you just explain that a little bit?
Yeah, and it's why that condition is so important from planning staff. If I could indulge committee staff to go back to that site plan, and it's why through you, Mr. Chair, the reduction in that red hatched area didn't change that variance. You'll see that there's a covered porch at the rear. And if you see a little bit to the left of that covered porch, there's a black arrow. That's where the depth ends, 26.43. And it's because there's excavated space below the porch that additional depth of about 4.36 meters gets added on to the overall length or depth of the house.
Okay, so just so I understand this completely correctly, a fairly large proportion of the extra depth is actually underground under the covered porch?
Correct.
Okay, and so what's the actual first story depth?
You'll just have to give me one. It's a bit it's a bit complicated because of the tiering of the house. You'll have to.
First story.
Yeah, just give me 1 second for that question. Apologies through you, Mr. Chair. I have it, but let me just pull up a different document.
Is that 24.21?
I just wanted to make sure that's the length measurement for all of the home, but to that projecting 1-story portion. I was also going to give you, if I have it, the number for the overall length of the first floor that excludes that, which I thought I had. And just apologies for a moment, Mr. Chair, because that's a projection out the front. I just have to go to the ground floor plan. One moment, sir, I just have it. That projection is about 1 meter to 1.5 meters. So take another meter off that length variance to go from the main front wall to that projecting notched portion of the 2-story. So it would get you down to a little bit under 23.
Okay. Thanks. That's fine. An estimate is all I need.
Thank you.
Okay. Any, Zahir?
Yeah, Mr. Bronskill, just a quick question. The paving that you have beyond the covered porch or area that you mentioned, is that something that could be permeable? I'm just thinking of hopefully having something that will allow for percolation of water as well, because there's a reasonably large area that is paved at the back.
Yes, it is that paved walk area out to the pool. I was just going to see if I had those calculations. I don't see any reason why it couldn't be permeable paving there. And I just wanted to see if I had any additional calculations that might help you. One moment, sorry.
No.
But that would not be a problem in terms of should the committee see fit to approve it to have that as permeable paving. Obviously, it's intended to be functional but decorative paving in the rear yard. So I don't think that's a problem at all.
If we did put in a condition, would I describe that as the paved area between the covered porch and the cabana?
I think you would include it back to the cabana. Yes, not just the pool, but I would include it back to the cabana.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions?
Through you, Mr. Chair, based on the revisions, does that modify variance number 3 for floor space index? Or?
Thank you to staff for the question. We checked that. It doesn't. The FSI comes out to be the same.
Okay.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, the condition from community planning where they're tying to site plan and elevation plans, will use the same wording
but we will change the date. Instead of July 24th, we'll add in the August 26th
Right.
date.
Okay. And there is a heritage condition. Okay. Any further questions? All right, let's take this into committee. Comments, motion?
I'll just
Yes,
comment.
Dylan, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this has been well thought out. I mean, it's really substantial, but I take the point that the above ground depth is a more reasonable amount. Also, it lines up with the other buildings, not just the next door, but I checked the other buildings on the block are also of a similar depth. And clearly, they've come to an agreement with the next door neighbor, which I think is great as well. So, although it is really quite substantial, I think it's supportable in the context.
Okay. Anyone else? Maybe you could convert that into a motion, sir?
Sure. I will make a motion to approve the revised variances application with the planning condition, but with a revised planning condition to the revised date, with the heritage condition and with forestry condition number 2. I think that's everything. Oh, and with, sorry, and Zahir, maybe just do a friendly amendment.
And it's the permeable paving between the covered porch at the rear and the cabana.
Right.
And I think Mr. Bronski will
Right.
seems that will suffice.
With Zahir's friendly amendment.
Okay. Motion to approve with those conditions by Mr. Reed. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Byatt? All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you. We now move on to, just let me double check. Yes, the last item of the day. Number 29, 30 Powerhouse Street. This is an application to alter the redevelopment plan for a 7-story mixed-use building as approved under site-specific zoning bylaw 241-2024 by permitting residential dwelling units and no indoor and outdoor residential amenity space. Committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 4 photographs of the subject property received August 6th, covering letter from the agent, decision A0514/17 EYK and A1331/21 TUI affecting the subject property. Email correspondence with Heritage Planning and site-specific zoning bylaw 232-2024 and 241-2024 affecting the subject property. We have email correspondence from Heritage Planning and from Community Planning, and we have a staff report from Metrolinx.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, and we have 1 registered speaker. We did have a second registered speaker. We've made attempts and have not been able to reach them.
Okay, thank you very much.
At this time, we'll unmute the agent.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Name is Chris Pereira. I'm the principal of Mbahar Planning and Design Limited, and I am located at 25 Valleywood Drive in Markham, Ontario.
Great. Sir, we will need a presentation on your application today.
No problem. Mr. Chair and members of committee, the parcel subject to the application before committee today is municipally known as 30 Powerhouse Street. This is located within the Davenport Village Secondary Plan, which is a kind of a larger area which extends south of the CN rail corridor to the south. The site currently exists a 4-story commercial building that was initially built out through the phase 1 of the Davenport Village redevelopment. Fast forward now to 2020, this building was approved in principle for additional stories, a total of 7, with new commercial permissions and residential permissions of up to 35 units. At the time, one of staff's recommendations in their staff report was that the zoning bill not be brought forward until the owner entered into a site plan agreement with the city. Pretty common stuff for a staff report. Now, since 2020, through a number of delays for several reasons, one of them being a global pandemic, the site plan agreement was finally entered into in 2024. As such, bylaw 241-2024 was approved on March 31st, 2024, with no changes as it was drafted by staff initially in 2020. So now, through permit level discussions with the building department, a few items were identified based on current interpretation of the zoning. This has resulted in a few items being noted, which are included in our application here today. So I'm going to spend a few minutes quickly just going over the three variances that we are seeking here today. The first variance pertains to our site-specific bylaw, which under Section 5G permits a number of uses. I'm going to focus on the one that we're kind of focused on. 5GI permits an apartment building, and this was drafted in 2020, which to our knowledge was supposed to permit the development to proceed as it was designed. Recently, we were made aware by the building department that permitted use is not sufficient to capture what the drawings are showing. And what they had advised us is that the proper use should actually be dwellings, 2 or more units. So what we're seeking on the first variance is to replace apartment building as a permitted use with dwellings, 2 or more units as the permitted use. The building hasn't changed, nothing has changed. This is really a zoning interpretation thing that building made us aware of. The second item pertains to the requirement of a minimum indoor and outdoor amenity space. Currently, the bylaw provides a minimum of, requires a minimum of 2 square meters per dwelling unit of indoor and outdoor. Our request is really not to actually eliminate the indoor amenity space requirement, but simply apply it to when there is 20 or more units. And this is consistent with how the City of Toronto requires amenity space for larger apartment buildings and condos. It's usually triggered at if you have 20 more units, then you have to start providing amenity space. So this second variance really seeks to, like I said, not eliminate the requirement, but tie it to when there are 20 units or more. Also, in terms of the loss, the perceived loss of amenity space, I should point out that Davenport Village Park is located 20 meters across the street on Foundry Avenue. This is a newly constructed, fairly newly constructed park that was built as part of the rest of the phase development of the Davenport Village Secondary Plan. It's about 8,700 square meters, which is like just under a hectare, which is about 2.14 acres of effectively new parkland. So we feel comfortable that, you know, any amenity requirements, and you can see it on the map there to the left, any of the amenity requirements are going to be more than satisfactorily met through that brand new park. Lastly, the third variance was identified by building again recently, and this pertains to the balcony railings at the 5th and the 6th floors. The design of these balconies has not changed really since 2020, and this will not materially change anything of the design or impact anything in a real way. This has everything to do with the location of the balcony railing on the terrace 5th and 6th floors. That covers the variances. I've got about 20 seconds left, so I'm just going to close off by stating that we believe that the 4 tests of minor variance as prescribed by the Planning Act are met. Planning staff are in support of the application, and we have reviewed the Metrolinx comment, and we are in agreement with the condition that they have suggested. So thank you very much, and I'm available to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Yeah, so just a question for variance number 1, which is the residential amenity space. I saw your cover letter as well, and you've also explained it here, that it's if there are if there are less than 20 units, dwelling units. Could we revise that to be specific to, in this case, there'll be no indoor and outdoor residential amenity space provided on site if there are less than 20 residential units? Can we make it specific?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's totally fine with us. That was actually what I had suggested in my own cover letter in terms of adding that language. So that would be consistent with how we envisioned this variance. So we have no issues with that recommended change.
Super, thank you. So can we make that revised?
How many units are you proposed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the base bylaw allows up to 35 units. Right now, the plan is potentially to go with 8 units, but if market changes and there is flexibility built into the bylaw, the owner would like that ability to convert some of the commercial space that he has into the residential space. So the bylaw always permits an upward of 35 units. What we're asking is that the amended space requirement only be triggered should and only if he decides to go with a different option that includes 20 or more units.
So what's the split between commercial and residential now on GFA, for example?
Oh, I would have to refer to our bylaw.
I mean, 8 units, is that like 2 floors?
Yes, exactly. The 2 floors are the 5th and the 6th and the partial 7-story where the 8 additional residential units are being proposed. The first 4 stories of the existing building is going to continue to be used as office and commercial uses.
But you want to provide for, at the future, maybe converting some of those commercial units to res?
It's possible. The bylaw has that flexibility built into it to allow both scenarios to proceed, either a completely residential building with 35 units, or as is shown right now, which is the current plan, to go with 4 stories of commercial and then 2 stories, 2.5 really stories of additional residential units, which are a total of 8 units.
And I noticed on your rooftop from the photos you provided, it looks like is it hoarding or is it safety barrier? Is the rooftop proposed for any kind of use?
Through you, Mr. Chair, other than a walkout kind of a walkout patio for those upper units, or you mean right to the very top?
The rooftop, yeah.
So that's the mechanical overrun, and then we just have a green roof. So this area, the hatched area that says terrace area, I think is available for people to enjoy, but the area outside of that hatched area is more of a green roof, which is not going to be accessible.
So the terraced area, isn't it de facto amenity space?
Certainly, yes. The short answer is yes, that is already kind of amenity space that is being provided for those units.
But that isn't recognized under the bylaw.
Well, the bylaw requires both indoor and outdoor. So while this may satisfy the outdoor requirements, it doesn't satisfy the indoor requirements. So the idea behind this variance is really to tie both indoor and outdoor requirements to when it is required normally, which is when you have 20 more units.
All right, thank you. We do have someone registered to speak.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we will unmute them. Lydia? Hello, Lydia? Should we try to call? Okay, we're going to try and call them.
Okay, and that's the only one? Mr. Payne
Is not connected.
is not connected, okay.
Sorry, can we try again, Lydia? Maybe you need to raise the volume. Hello, Lydia, we'll try again. If you have a headset for your device, that may help. That's the phone number that we would call in. Lydia, if you can hear us, perhaps maybe hang up and then we'll try calling you. Through you, Mr. Chair, we can see that they're online.
Okay.
It's just we can't hear them. They're unmuted and we can see the microphone. We can see that they're attempting to speak to us. It's just we can't hear what they're saying.
And Lydia didn't write anything
No.
in for us.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna try one more thing. We're gonna expel them from the meeting and then we're gonna just call them and see if that works. Through you, Mr. Chair, we're not having any luck.
Lydia, if you can hear us, we've tried several times to connect with you. We've been unable to do so, so we have to proceed and we apologize. All right, any questions to the agent? Seeing none, let's take this into committee. Dylan?
Yeah, this is mostly technical. It seems very reasonable. It's just really fixing up some confusions, interpretation and such. So I move that we approve these variances as revised. Sabrina, you got the revision? Yeah. And with the Metrolinx condition, which is with the Metrolinx condition that we usually include.
Okay.
That would be the warning clause?
The warning clause, yeah.
All right, we have a motion to approve, subject to the Metrolinx clause by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? This application is approved. And that is the conclusion of today's proceedings. We are adjourning at 4:29 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Great job. Thank you, staff, as usual.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.